The disappearance of a loved one can be a devastating and stressful event. Not knowing what happened, who was involved, if they're okay, and if you'll never see them again, sounds like a family's nightmare. A case like Nyleen K. Marshall's is that family's reality. Nyleen was born September 18, 1978, living in Warm Springs Creek in Montana with Mother Nancy, stepfather Kim, and her 2 siblings. The story begins when the family went on an outing to the Helena National Forest in the Elkhorn Mountains. They enjoyed the outdoors and wanted to have a picnic on June 25, 1983. The picnic was an event held by the Capital City Radio Club, which Kim was a part of. The parents allowed Nyleen to leave the picnic with a small group of other kids, trusting that she knew how to handle herself. Outdoors. When she was 4. The group was playing by some shallow banks when Nyleen fell behind for just a few moments. When the other kids turned back, she was gone. Later interviews with the kids explained that they thought she had gone back to the campsite to find her parents, but when they returned themselves, she was nowhere to be found. Kim and Nancy immediately set off to find their daughter, then called the police to help in the search. They extensively searched the last area Nyleen was seen, including abandoned mines in the area, but they recovered nothing. At the time of disappearance, Nyleen had brown hair, blue eyes, a chipped left baby tooth, dimples, and a mole over her left eyebrow. While a number of things could have happened to the girl, including getting attacked by an animal or wandering off and getting lost, the family believed that she was abducted. When police questioned the other kids, they informed them that Nyleen had been talking to a man in a jogging suit shortly before she disappeared. They heard her tell the man that her brother could outrun him, and that he'd asked if she liked playing games like one called Follow the Shadow. While it was additional information, the jogger was never connected to the case. The family members were all interviewed and investigated separately, and while it was never publicly known why, the stepfather, for a short while, was a person of interest in the case. He was never, however, named as a suspect. Despite all efforts of family and law enforcement, this looked like a cold case. Without any leads, it appeared as if the 4-year-old had simply disappeared. 2 years later, this case would get just a bit more bizarre. An anonymous person called the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children on several occasions. Police traced the phone calls to several phone booths in Edgerton, Wisconsin, but after the booths were identified, the calls stopped coming. The same man sent typewritten letters to the organization called Child Find of America, claiming that he'd been raising Nyleen since he kidnapped her. Excerpts from the letter addressed Nyleen by her middle name and explained, "I picked Kay up on the road in the Elkhorn Park area between Helena and Boulder. She was crying and frightened, and as I held her, she was shaking, and I decided that I would keep her and love her. I took her home with me. I have investment income, and I can work from home, so I care for her myself all the time. I teach her at home, and she likes to go with me when I travel." The letter claimed that he took the girl around the world with him, and she loved it. He claimed she now had short, curly hair, had grown to about 45 inches and 50 pounds, had all 4 permanent upper and lower incisors, brushes her teeth, bathes daily, and eats well. A lot of really personal information I can imagine is terrifying for a parent to hear about, because while the letters gave them hope that Nyleen was still alive, she was being raised by a stranger as if she was his own. The narrative built by these letters weren't all wholesome and in the girl's best interests either. An excerpt reads, "I give her medicine from the bathroom every morning. It's actually a spoonful of my It doesn't affect her physically. Oh, gee whiz. Thanks, guy. That's real nice of you." The letter continued, "She's a sweet little girl, and it's because of how much I've grown to love her and realize how much her family must miss her. But she's adjusted and seems happy. Oh, you know, she's not my real daughter, but she seems happy and I like her, so I'm going to keep her." What a piece of shit. The letter reportedly contains details that led police to believe it was credible. It was postmarked from Madison, Wisconsin, but no one has ever been found attached to it. Another glimmer of hope would arrive after Nyleen's case aired on Unsolved Mysteries in 1990. A tip received from a viewer who believed Nyleen was one of her classmates in Washington. Upon following the lead, investigators were astounded to discover that the tipster's classmate was actually Monica Bonilla, another missing child who was abducted by her biological father, Guillermo, about 8 years prior. What are the odds that by looking into one missing child, they found another one? While disappointed it wasn't their daughter, Nyleen's parents were pleased that the investigation helped Monica. The operator of Unsolved Mysteries commented, "We were just tickled, and so was her mother, Nancy Marshall. At least, some good came of it." In August of 1991, there was another break in the case when Richard James Wilson handed himself into Livingston police and confessed to killing Nyleen and a woman from Great Falls. Richard had a history of mental illness and had been on probation since 1984 after he was convicted for assault on a minor. In his confession, he gave police the location of the buried Nyleen, an unidentified woman. Police searched both locations, Nyleen's being in the Elkhorn Mountains, but nothing was uncovered. An investigator commented, "Based on the information given to us, it behooves us to follow through and determine the validity of what Mr. Wilson had to say." Shortly after, Richard was released as there just wasn't enough evidence to charge him with a crime. It would be 7 years before the case was brought up again. A nurse at a New Orleans hospital contacted police after seeing a rerun of Unsolved Mysteries, believing to have perhaps seen Nyleen 2 years prior. A woman named Helena and an unidentified man had entered the hospital looking to admit her for childbirth, but upon asking for proper identification, the couple became nervous and quickly left. The FBI were informed about Helena, and soon police were sent to track her down in Oklahoma City. Helena claimed she remembered little about her childhood, but thought that her mother may have been named Nyleen. She agreed to have blood drawn for testing against Nyleen's father's, but unfortunately it didn't match and she was ruled out as being Nyleen. We end the story inconclusive. Whether or not Nyleen is alive and living a normal life is unknown, but I hope for the best. All we have now is a digital guess of what she might look like. She would be in her 40s by now. Unfortunately for her mother, the search ended in 1995 when she was murdered in Mexico. A truly unfair and devastating end to this story. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more true horror, or if you have any unsolved mysteries that you would like me to look into, send me a DM on Twitter. Until next time, be well.